Right, so our top story, of course, is the fact that after 2 years of being in jail, Bhima Koregaon, a case accused, and activist Varavara Rao has got bail. The bail has been granted by the Supreme Court, and there are very strong observations which have been made by the Supreme Court while granting bail to the activist, essentially frowning on the NIA probe and asking how the trial has not even begun since they are 2 years into the incarceration of Varavara Rao. Also saying the Supreme Court in fact noted that he's 80 years of age, and also questioned, asked NIA how the custodial interrogation is yet to take place of Varavara Rao. Let me go across to my colleague Meenakshi. Meenakshi, take us through the details of what exactly did the Supreme Court observe, what happened in the hearing today.
Well, yes, Tanima, at the outset, we will underline for our viewers as to how in this proceedings we saw some staunch opposition come in from the NIA, which was represented by ASG Raju before the Supreme Court. And like you rightly mentioned, the NIA was urging upon the Supreme Court that in cases of UAPA, the accused cannot be given the benefit of medical condition as a ground to procure bail. Now, by virtue of today's bail orders, what the Apex Court has done is that it has rejected or brushed aside this particular ground of the NIA, saying that a medical condition can't be a factor to let out a UAPA accused on bail. Now, why that has happened, Tanima, like you rightly mentioned, was because of several crucial factors which the NIA wasn't able to satisfy the Supreme Court on. Number one, the framing of charges process, which, as you know, Tanima, marks the formal beginning of the trial process. That has not yet happened. When will it happen? Nobody can say, including the law officer who was representing the NIA before the Supreme Court. Secondly, the Supreme Court wanted to know how long Varavara Rao has been in incarceration, where the Supreme Court was informed that it is a period of 2+ years that he has been incarcerated. There are medical problems. The fact that he is advanced in his age, which is some 80+ years, was also a factor which weighed upon the Supreme Court's mind. So it was a cumulative reasons why the Supreme Court has gone ahead and granted regular bail to Varavara Rao. And also, like you rightly mentioned, one other fact that the Supreme Court has noted is how till date, no custodial interrogation of Varavara Rao has happened, which the NIA had earlier sought for. So, cumulative reasons have today gone against the NIA's arguments in Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has intervened and granted regular bail on medical grounds to Varavara Rao, like you rightly mentioned, who has spent a total of 2+ years in custody thus far.
Meenakshi, thank you so much for joining us. That's a comprehensive update from Supreme Court. Also, to discuss further on this, I'm joined on the show by Zakia Soman, activist, and Kawalpreet Kaur, human rights lawyer. Zakia, coming to you first. There are very strong observations being made by the Supreme Court in this particular case, essentially saying, in fact, exclaiming on the fact that the trial has not even begun. Now, it's a two-way process, as we know. It's the investigative agency which is working on the case, but also the fact that there are instances, when the judicial probe, the judicial process also takes time. In between all this, this is a person, of course, as the trial has not yet begun, we cannot comment on conclusively on the case, but this is a person who has been stuck in jail for 2 years, finally gets bail from the top court. Somewhere, the system needs to answer this question.
Yes, definitely, Tanima. It is a welcome development that Supreme Court has given Varavara Rao bail. And similarly, bail should be given to all others, who are being held without charges, without evidence in the Bhima Koregaon case and several other cases. And we remember, not so long ago, the Supreme Court has said in the matter of yet another person, a journalist, that this translates into the process becoming a punishment. So we know that Varavara Rao is a 80+-year-old citizen, and I would say he's been a very active and very patriotic citizen who has spent his life serving others, serving the poor, serving the Adivasis, serving the SCs, STs, and such a person is, being held in jail without charges. I think this is this has been a mockery of justice, and I'm very glad that he has been, given bail. And we all know, what happened in the matter of Stan Swami. Again, another activist who had dedicated his life in the service of Adivasis, and he was 84-year-old, and he died in jail without, basic support like straw or glasses to read the news. So this kind of unfair and unjust incarceration of patriotic Indians who are fighting for justice, who are fighting for improvement and betterment of society, I think it's a shame. It's a shame, and I'm really glad that Supreme Court has acted on the side of justice and acted on the side of the citizens' rights, which are granted by the Constitution, that a citizen is innocent until proven guilty. Now, I would also say that the process of law in our country is very, very time consuming. Tanima, you are very right. But this is not an ordinary case, and UAPA is not an ordinary law. These there are political concerns. There are matters which are driven by arrests, which are made by driven by political kind of considerations. So this cannot be equated to the normal delay in our legal procedure. So I feel, Varavara Rao, Stan Swami, and several others who are, there in various courts in the Bhima Koregaon matter, as also some others, who are held under UPA, they are more of political prisoners rather than actual, culprits. So
Right.
we need to look at, this issue from this perspective, Tanima.
Right. Thank you for your initial comments. Kawalpreet Kaur, looking at this particular case, it is, of course, a case which the NIA is probing, the anti-terror agency is probing. They would argue that it's a very sensitive matter, and sometimes these things would take time. Given your experience, do you see that whether it is unfortunately, an often seen phenomena which takes place in certain sensitive cases, especially where the investigative agencies may argue that, because it's a matter of state security, national security, we have to take certain precautions and hard measures have to be taken. Is this, some sort of an explanation which you come across as a human rights activist and human rights lawyer, rather, often in courtrooms by the investigative agencies who, there might be a delay in procedure, but they quote the sensitivity of the matter and in a way try to get some, longer rope, if so to speak, in terms of how they handle such cases?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I would say that I'm really glad that Varavara Rao is now out on bail. And it is actually a medical bail, the bail on medical grounds solely. And as Varavara Rao is out, we remember Stan Swami. Father Stan was denied bails multiple times by the High Court. And after that, even putting on record that his medical condition was not right, his bail application was pending. And unfortunately, by the time his bail application was heard, he had died. And the treatment that was meted out to him in the jail, we all know that is already being told. I will not repeat it, how even a supper in a straw was denied to him in the bail while he was in the custody. And I believe Bhima Koregaon case is actually this one example before us in which we must understand who are the people who are inside the prison. Who are these people? Anand Teltumde, the foremost mind of this country, excellent scholar of this country, is inside the prison since past, 2.5 years. Professor Hani Babu from Delhi University, he is a brilliant linguist. He's a brilliant activist, anti-caste activist. He is in prison. Rona Wilson, who, despite the studies also coming out saying that they are saying that how things were planted in their computers, he's still in prison. So these Bhima Koregaon prisoners are not just another criminals. They are not criminals and they are not terrorists as they are being portrayed in the courtrooms and outside the courtrooms. And I believe in this case, we have also seen since 2018, these all of these BK 16 as we called, and after the passing of Father Stan, BK 15, Bhima Koregaon 15, all of them are inside the prison. They are suffering even for the basic things. When Gautam Navlakha asked for his glasses to be replaced, he was denied that. when Professor Hani Babu had an eye infection. He was denied bail on that ground also. So they are really suffering, and the case is being portrayed in the media and in the courtroom as if it's a big plot, it's a big conspiracy plot. But if you really go into even the case that is being made out, all of these persons are right now in the prison without even the trial having started. So this is what UAPA does to you. This is how this law is meant. And as it has been told by many times, and I think it has to be repeated multiple times, that this is unfair. This pre-trial detention is absolutely unfair, because at the one side, the court says that the liberty of the citizen is foremost. And on the other side, when you put these charges on persons, even without the trial having started, they have to be in prison for what, over 4 years, 5 years they have to be, and the trial still has not started. And we must remember that Varavara Rao has got bail on medical grounds. It's not even a regular bail, in the sense that the trial still has to start. Right. So I believe it's very important to see what UAPA and how UAPA is used, on who are the persons against whom these charges are being framed. They are not pure criminals. They are the activists. They are the persons who have been working for the betterment of the society, for equality. They are the persons who are asking for justice in the society. They are anti-caste activists. They are activists raising voices for other people, for marginalized, right, for other classes. So, and why they are being chosen and they are being put behind bars, and how Bhima Koregaon entire case was made out in 2018, the Elgar Parishad conference, we all must connect these dots. And later on, it has been turned into a conspiracy, a plot against some assassination plot. So I believe it's very unfortunate that pre-trial detention are still going on, 4 years, 5 years. They have to spend time in prison.
My final question from both of you, actually, both of you can answer this by turn. What needs to change in terms of bringing about a balance? Because we also have to understand that this may be a particular case, but even NIA today has in fact said in court that the fact that he's 80 years of age, and that is one of the things that the Supreme Court noted while granting bail, should not be seen as a precedent in terms of other cases. So what do you think needs to change in terms of striking a balance? On one side, these are sensitive matters at the end of the day that the NIA or any other investigative agency for that matter is looking at. On the other hand, of course, there are human rights under question. So how can a balance be struck between the investigative authorities and also in terms of the judicial process that we're looking at? Zakia first.
So I think to begin with, rights of a citizen are supreme. We cannot be talking about democracy without upholding the rights of the citizens. We keep violating rights of citizens at every step. And then we celebrate democracy. We are celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. So, I would like to begin by looking at a very draconian law, which is the UAPA. It is not meant to be used against your own citizens who are dissenters, who don't agree with the views of the various governments, citizens who are so upright, who are activists, who are serving the nation by serving the fellow citizens. So we need that these draconian provisions in laws such as UAPA need to be revisited. Although this law was brought about by the UPA government, and there was a lot of opposition at that time itself, we opposed these kind of inhuman and draconian provisions which are there in the law. And NIA was formed to fight terrorism and to obtain national security for the country. Now, Varavara Rao can hardly be called a terrorist. Stan Swami can hardly be called a terrorist. So on the other hand, these laws are translating into criminalizing our own good and outstanding citizens who are spending their lives in the service of fellow citizens, and like I said, extremely patriotic citizens they are. So I think we need a clarity on that. Tanima, I think the problem here is also, apart from the legal aspects, the problem is also political and ideological.
Right.
There is a selective going after certain people who do not agree with the dominant thinking, who do not agree with the thinking of the regime, or who put a mirror to the regime, who demand accountability for the regime. They are being punished by by sort of putting them under
Right.
these kind of charges. So I think a lot needs to change in our country,
Very
especially
sorry to
since we are
interrupt you.
celebrating.
Yes, yeah, I'm really sorry to interrupt you. We'll have to. I'm running out of time, but I'll give the last word to Kawalpreet. Kawalpreet, please.
Thank you. I'll just say that UAPA must go in order to safeguard the liberty of the citizens of this country, because the governments will keep coming and going, but the citizens, this country has to survive. And this law has to go. You cannot live in a democratic country and you use anti-terror laws on your ordinary citizens, on activists and academicians at part who do not agree with you on certain points, who have ideological differences with you. You cannot use UAPA on the students of this country who have ideological differences with you, who oppose your citizenship acts, or who oppose you on multiple issues. That has to go out. This message has to go out. And I also believe the Supreme Court, in a way, through its Batali judgment that it gave out, legitimized the pre-trial detentions. And that also should be reviewed by the court,
Right.
because you cannot have evidence which will not be admissible during the stage of the trial, and you can use it to deny bail to the person. That cannot go on.
Right. Very important comments there. Zakia Soman, Kawalpreet Kaur, thank you so much for joining us on this discussion.